In today's revealing and thought-provoking video, we're about to embark on a journey that will challenge the very way you think about kindness and generosity. I'm going to share with you 8 types of people you should never help, no matter how much compassion you may have. The lessons here are not only powerful, but could save you from emotional and even financial heartbreak. Stick around until the end, because the last type of person on this list will leave you absolutely stunned. Watch this video to discover the hidden truths about human nature and protect yourself from those who may take advantage of your goodwill. Before we start, I'd appreciate your support. If you liked the video, please subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated on future lessons. In this emotionally charged and eye-opening video, I am about to reveal 8 types of people you should absolutely never help. What you discover in this list may shock you, but the last type will leave you speechless. However, before we even begin this journey, I need you to give your full attention to a story that holds a powerful and unforgettable lesson, one that has the potential to transform the way you view kindness, compassion, and human nature. There was once a devoted farmer named Carlos, who lived in a quiet, humble village nestled between rolling hills. He was a man whose soul radiated generosity and goodwill. Carlos was the type of person everyone turned to in times of need because he believed that offering help, no matter the situation, was the highest form of humanity. His heart was open, his hands always ready to lift others up. However, life would soon present Carlos with a heart-wrenching lesson he would never forget. One scorching afternoon, while Carlos was tending to his crops, he stumbled upon a creature in distress. It was a snake, twisted and bound in the cruel wires of a rusty trap, hissing and writhing in pain. Most people would have walked away, or perhaps even been relieved to see such a dangerous animal caught. But not Carlos. His heart, filled with compassion, saw not the threat, but the suffering. Against his better judgment, and despite the obvious risk, he decided to free the snake. His hands trembled as he carefully loosened the wires that held the creature captive, knowing full well the potential danger. But to him, every life was precious. For days, Carlos nursed the snake back to health. He fed it, kept it safe, and made sure it had a place to recover. There was something in his soul that believed even the most venomous creature could change with love and care. Each day, he watched the snake grow stronger, and with it, his pride in what he believed was an act of pure kindness. He had saved a life. He had extended mercy where most wouldn't. He believed that his act of goodness could even change the snake's very nature. Then, one day, as Carlos bent down to feed the snake one last time, something unexpected happened. Without warning, in the blink of an eye, the snake struck with deadly force. Its fangs sunk deep into Carlos' arm, injecting venom that seared through his veins. The shock and betrayal were instant. The pain that radiated from his arm was nothing compared to the crushing weight of realization that hit him all at once. He had saved this creature, offered it sanctuary, and still, it had turned on him. As the venom spread, Carlos watched in disbelief as the snake slithered away, without even a glance back. It had used him for survival, only to discard him the moment it had the chance. That was when Carlos understood a devastating truth. Some people, much like that snake, will take all the kindness you offer and then bite you the moment they can, without remorse, without gratitude, because in the end, their nature isn't changed by your goodness. This story, as tragic as it is, teaches us a profound lesson about the boundaries of compassion. We often believe that by giving, by helping, we can change the nature of those around us. But the reality is, not everyone you help will appreciate your kindness. Some will take advantage of it, some will betray you, and some will even harm you. Carlos' story is a reminder that not every person is deserving of your help, and more importantly, not every act of kindness will be repaid with gratitude. As we continue through this video, keep this story in your heart and mind, because it serves as a foundation for understanding why certain people should never be helped, no matter how strong your compassion might be. Not everyone who needs your help deserves it, and sometimes, the very people you try to save will be the ones who hurt you the most. Stay with me as we uncover these 8 types of people, and prepare yourself for the truth you may have been avoiding all along. Number 1. The ungrateful. Picture this. You've gone out of your way to help someone, sacrificing your time, energy, and resources, only to be met with silence or, worse, complaints. It's a feeling that stings, a deep cut to the heart of anyone who believes in the goodness of giving. Ungrateful people are like black holes, absorbing everything you pour into them, leaving nothing behind but emptiness. No matter how much you give, it's never enough, and the cycle of disappointment continues. These individuals can leave you feeling drained, questioning your own worth and kindness. Their lack of appreciation becomes a constant weight on your soul. Imagine you're dining at a restaurant with friends. The atmosphere is light, the food is great, and laughter fills the air. But then, a voice cuts through the joy. It's a person loudly complaining about everything. The food's too cold, the portions too small, the lighting too dim. Even the color of the napkins is apparently offensive to them. Everyone at the table can feel the shift in energy as the ungrateful guest pulls everyone down into their pit of discontent. We've all met someone like this. Someone who seems to find fault with every little thing. They walk through life with a permanent frown, unable to see the beauty or blessings that surround them. These people aren't just dissatisfied with the little things. They are dissatisfied with life itself. The question is why? Why do some people seem incapable of gratitude, even when life offers them kindness and generosity? According to psychological studies, including research from the University of California, people who struggle with low self-esteem often have difficulty feeling or expressing gratitude. For them, it's as if their hearts are shielded by a thick layer of insecurity, preventing any positive feelings from penetrating. They are constantly focused on what they don't have, rather than appreciating what they do. In their world, the glass is always half empty, no matter how much you try to fill it. But the ungrateful don't just harm themselves with their negativity. They harm the people around them, particularly those who try to help them. The energy you invest in someone who cannot appreciate it is energy lost. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. No matter how much you pour in, it will never be enough. You end up feeling frustrated, exhausted, and most of all, unappreciated. And that's the danger of continually helping someone who's ungrateful. It can make you feel as though your efforts are worthless, as though your kindness has no value. At this point, it's crucial to remember the wisdom of renowned businessman Michael Rogers, who once said, "Treat your employees as you want them to treat your best customers." This principle doesn't just apply to business. It extends to every relationship in your life. If you are constantly giving to someone who doesn't value your contributions, who never acknowledges your help, it's time to step back and reassess. Are you treating them better than they are treating you? Are you pouring your heart and soul into someone who will never be satisfied? Gratitude, like trust, is something that needs to be earned and nurtured. It's not a one-way street. When you continuously give to someone who takes without giving anything in return, not even a simple thank you, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and emotional exhaustion. Gratitude is like a plant, one that needs to be cared for and watered in order to grow. But if you're pouring all your effort into a barren garden, where nothing blooms despite your best efforts, you need to ask yourself a tough question. Are you planting your seeds in the wrong soil? Helping someone who is ungrateful can be a deeply painful experience. It can leave scars, making you doubt the very act of kindness itself. But remember this, kindness is never wasted, even if the recipient doesn't appreciate it. The issue lies not with your giving spirit, but with the person who lacks the capacity to value it. As you go through life, learn to recognize the signs of ungratefulness early on. Protect your energy, your kindness, and your heart. Choose to invest in people who recognize your worth, who can appreciate the beauty in what you offer. It's not about cutting off every person who forgets to say thank you. We all have moments of carelessness. But when someone repeatedly shows you through their actions that your kindness means nothing to them, it's time to walk away. Don't waste your precious time and love on people who are only looking to take. You deserve relationships that lift you up, not ones that drain you dry. So, as you move forward, be mindful of where you direct your kindness. Choose wisely, and give to those who know how to say thank you, not just with their words, but with their actions. In the end, the greatest lesson is this: not everyone is deserving of your help, and the sooner you recognize the ungrateful for who they are, the sooner you can free yourself from the emotional burden they carry. Focus on those who appreciate your efforts, and watch how your life blossoms in ways you never thought possible. Number 2, the lazy. Have you ever come across someone who seems to have a natural aversion to effort, as if the very idea of productivity sends them into a panic? These are the individuals who can find an excuse for everything, no matter how trivial the task. It's as if their couch has become a permanent fixture in their life, and the remote control is a trusted companion they can't be separated from. Welcome to the bizarre and often frustrating world of the lazy, where effort is an afterthought and procrastination is an art form. These are the people who, through their sheer avoidance of work, somehow manage to teach us an important lesson about the cost of inaction. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Picture this. You're sitting in a critical work meeting, and when it's time for someone to present their portion of the project, you hear them mutter, "I couldn't finish the report because my cat ate my motivation." Everyone around the table exchanges knowing glances because, of course, it's the professional lazy person, always equipped with a creative excuse. These people have a remarkable ability to turn even the simplest task into a Herculean feat that, mysteriously, they can never quite accomplish. The project that takes you 2 hours seems to take them 2 weeks, or more likely, never gets done at all. They shuffle through life with the grace of someone forever hitting the snooze button. But what lies beneath this behavior? Why do some people seem to have perfected the art of avoiding effort, turning procrastination into their personal mantra? Science offers us some surprising insights. A study from the University of Calgary suggests that laziness might actually have roots in our evolutionary past. Early humans, faced with the constant threat of predators and a need to conserve energy, developed a kind of battery-saving mode that allowed them to survive during times of scarcity. In other words, our ancestors were hardwired to preserve their energy for when it was absolutely necessary, like running from danger or hunting for food. Back then, laziness was less about avoiding tasks and more about surviving in a world that demanded bursts of energy at critical moments. But here's the catch. We no longer live in that world. In today's society, we aren't running from lions or foraging for food in the wilderness. The evolutionary strategy to conserve energy is no longer a survival tool. It's become a hindrance. In a world where productivity and action drive success, this outdated battery-saving mode often leads to stagnation. The lazy person, who may think they're cleverly conserving energy, is actually undermining their potential to grow, achieve, and succeed in life. The cost of laziness goes far beyond a missed deadline or an unfinished chore. It seeps into every corner of life, stalling progress and draining the enthusiasm of those around them. Lazy people are often the ones who hold back teams, slow down projects, and frustrate those who are putting in the effort. They drag down productivity not just for themselves, but for everyone who depends on them. It's a ripple effect that spreads negativity and resentment, leaving you to pick up the pieces of their inaction. But before we rush to judgment, it's important to understand that laziness isn't always a conscious choice. In some cases, it's a psychological defense mechanism, a way to avoid fear of failure or rejection. For others, it might stem from a deep-seated lack of motivation or an overwhelming sense of apathy. The lazy person may not even recognize how their behavior is sabotaging their own success and frustrating those around them. To them, avoiding effort might seem like a small act of self-preservation, but in reality, it's a destructive cycle that limits growth and keeps them stuck in mediocrity. We can all be lazy at times, but there's a difference between the occasional need for rest and the chronic avoidance of effort. Laziness, in its most harmful form, is not just about taking a break. It's about a habitual refusal to engage with life. It's about missing opportunities, avoiding responsibilities, and ultimately, wasting potential. The lazy person may think they're getting away with doing less, but the truth is they're only cheating themselves out of the rewards that come from hard work and perseverance. So, what do you do when you encounter someone who lives in this perpetual state of laziness? How do you handle the person who seems content to let the world pass them by while they remain glued to their couch? The answer lies in setting boundaries and recognizing that you can't drag someone out of their laziness. They have to want to change. You can encourage, inspire, and even help. But at the end of the day, effort is a personal choice. And some people, for reasons known only to them, simply refuse to make it. As we move forward, it's important to remember that laziness, like any other behavior, can be contagious. Surround yourself with people who inspire you to take action, not those who encourage you to do less. The lazy will always find a way to justify their inaction, but that doesn't mean you have to follow suit. Keep pushing forward, and don't let someone else's lack of effort weigh you down. In a world where time is precious and opportunities are fleeting, we can't afford to live in battery-saving mode. Effort is what drives success, and without it, we remain stagnant, stuck in a cycle of unfulfilled potential. The lazy may think they're conserving energy, but in reality, they're only draining their future. Don't let laziness become your default setting. Life is too short to sit on the sidelines. Get up, get moving, and leave the lazy behind. Number 3, the irresponsible. Have you ever encountered someone who drifts through life seemingly untouched by the weight of their actions, as if they live in a world where consequences simply don't exist? These people are the epitome of irresponsibility, masters of dodging commitments and artfully avoiding blame, leaving chaos in their wake while maintaining an air of innocence. Welcome to the frustrating and often exasperating universe of the irresponsible. Those individuals who seem to thrive on their ability to sidestep accountability, yet somehow always manage to land on their feet. Picture this. You're part of a close-knit group, perhaps at work or even within your family, and suddenly, a crisis emerges. The metaphorical boat you're all sailing on has sprung a leak, and while everyone scrambles to plug the hole and save the vessel, you glance over and notice one person, the irresponsible one, lounging on the deck, basking in the sun as if nothing is wrong. They casually shrug and say, "It's not my fault. I didn't make the hole." While the rest of you are frantically trying to keep the boat from sinking, they've already washed their hands of the problem, completely unconcerned about the consequences of their inaction. This is irresponsibility in its purest form, an almost pathological refusal to acknowledge their role in the situation. What makes dealing with irresponsible people so difficult is that they not only fail to take responsibility, but they often excel at shifting the blame onto others. They can be incredibly manipulative, weaving narratives that paint themselves as victims of circumstance, leaving you wondering how you ended up being responsible for cleaning up their mess. It's a vicious cycle. You step in to help, hoping to bring some stability or resolution to the situation, but the irresponsible person avoids making any meaningful changes, and when things go wrong, you might even be blamed for not fixing it fast enough or not doing enough. This behavior is particularly damaging because it undermines trust. In any relationship, be it professional, personal, or even within a family unit, trust is built on the foundation of shared responsibility. When someone refuses to hold themselves accountable, that foundation begins to crumble. Irresponsible people are like emotional thieves. They rob you of your time, your energy, and often your peace of mind, all while acting as though they are completely blameless. But what drives this chronic irresponsibility? Why do some people seem immune to the very concept of accountability? Psychology offers some intriguing insights into this behavior. Often, irresponsibility stems from a deep-seated fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, or fear of criticism. By avoiding responsibility, these individuals shield themselves from the possibility of being judged or held to a standard they fear they can't meet. Instead of facing the discomfort of making mistakes or dealing with failure, they detach themselves from the situation entirely. It's easier for them to remain aloof and unaffected than to admit that their actions or inactions might have contributed to the problem. However, irresponsibility can also be the result of upbringing or environmental factors. Some people are raised in environments where they were never held accountable for their actions, and as adults, they carry this learned behavior into every aspect of their lives. They've become accustomed to others stepping in to fix their problems, so they never develop the necessary skills to take ownership of their decisions. This creates a pattern that is incredibly difficult to break without significant intervention. Helping someone who consistently shirks responsibility can be one of the most emotionally draining tasks you'll ever undertake. You may pour your heart and soul into guiding them, offering advice, and even stepping in to solve problems for them. Yet, time and time again, you'll find that your efforts go to waste because the irresponsible person simply doesn't change. Worse still, they may begin to rely on you to fix everything, enabling their behavior and dragging you deeper into their cycle of avoidance. What's truly dangerous about irresponsibility is how it affects those around the person. Their refusal to take ownership forces others to bear the weight of their decisions, leaving you to clean up their messes and deal with the fallout. Over time, this breeds resentment, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. You find yourself not only dealing with the original problem, but also with the stress and strain of constantly being the one to shoulder the blame. It's a thankless role, and it can erode your sense of self-worth and confidence in your ability to manage your own responsibilities. So, how do we handle irresponsible people? The first and most important step is setting clear boundaries. It's crucial to recognize that you are not responsible for their behavior, nor should you feel obligated to continually rescue them. When dealing with irresponsible individuals, resist the urge to solve their problems for them. Instead, encourage them to reflect on their actions and the consequences that follow. As difficult as it may be, the only way they will learn is by facing the outcomes of their irresponsibility. Neuroscience tells us that the brain is adaptable, what experts like neuroscientist Emma Thompson call plastic. This means that even in adulthood, people can change their behavior and develop new patterns of thinking. However, this requires the individual to be willing to take the first step toward accountability. Without that willingness, change is nearly impossible. In some cases, irresponsible people need more than a nudge. They need a wake-up call, a stark reminder that their actions or inactions have real-world consequences. This might come in the form of facing a significant failure or losing the trust of those they rely on. But until they experience the weight of responsibility, they may never fully grasp the importance of owning their choices. As Maya Angelou famously said, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better." This powerful quote speaks to the heart of responsibility. Not just the act of doing, but the act of learning and growing from our experiences. Irresponsible people often avoid learning because they avoid the very situations that would force them to grow. But when they finally confront their failures and take ownership of their actions, they can begin to change, to learn from their mistakes, and to do better. In the end, helping an irresponsible person requires a delicate balance. On one hand, we must offer them the opportunity to learn, to reflect, and to grow. On the other hand, we must protect ourselves from becoming enablers, from being dragged down into the chaos they create. Responsibility is a two-way street, and those who refuse to walk it will never reach their full potential. But for those who are willing to learn, there is always hope. The key is in knowing when to offer guidance and when to step back, allowing them to face the consequences of their actions. Because in the world of the irresponsible, change will never come until they understand that life isn't just a series of disconnected events. It's a web of cause and effect, and eventually, every action or inaction will come full circle. Number 4, the manipulators. Among all the types of people you may encounter, none pose as much of a challenge as the manipulators. These individuals are masters of deception, playing on the goodwill of others with precision and cunning. Manipulators are true artists, able to twist situations to suit their needs, all while making you believe you're the one in control. They use your kindness, your empathy, and your sincere attempts to help as tools to advance their own agenda, with no intention of offering anything in return. If you've ever felt like you're part of a game you didn't even know you were playing, then you've likely fallen into the hands of a skilled manipulator. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Imagine you're in a chess match, carefully planning your moves, only to realize that your opponent has somehow manipulated the board when you weren't looking. That's what it feels like to be ensnared by a manipulator. Before you know it, they have moved the pieces, changed the rules, and left you at a disadvantage, all while wearing the mask of innocence. Manipulators often appear charming, helpful, and even vulnerable, luring you into a sense of security before revealing their true motives. The game is never fair, and you rarely see it coming until it's too late. But what drives this type of behavior? Psychology offers some fascinating insights. According to a study conducted by Stanford University, individuals with narcissistic and Machiavellian tendencies are more prone to manipulative behavior. These people often have an innate sense of entitlement and a relentless drive to achieve their own goals, no matter the cost. It's as if they are programmed with an internal GPS, constantly calculating the shortest and most advantageous route to their desires, even if that path leads through someone else's pain or betrayal. Their end game is always the same: personal gain, regardless of the damage left in their wake. Manipulators can be incredibly difficult to spot at first because they are skilled at reading people and adapting their behavior accordingly. They have an uncanny ability to become emotional chameleons, shifting their personality to match what they think others want to see. In one moment, they may be empathetic and caring, listening intently to your problems, only to turn cold and calculating when they no longer need your emotional investment. Their charm is often a smokescreen, designed to hide their true intentions. One of the most dangerous tactics manipulators use is gaslighting, an insidious form of psychological manipulation where they make you doubt your own reality. You may confront them about a behavior or a lie, only to have them twist the situation until you begin to question your own memory, judgment, or sanity. This slow erosion of confidence is one of their most powerful tools, as it leaves you vulnerable and dependent on their version of events. Manipulators thrive on this imbalance of power, knowing that the more confused and uncertain you become, the easier it is for them to control you. Another hallmark of a professional manipulator is their ability to undermine your self-esteem subtly and strategically. These are the people who throw out seemingly innocent comments or backhanded compliments that chip away at your confidence. They might say something like, "I'm surprised you managed to pull that off, given how stressed you've been lately." Or, "You look great today. I didn't expect you to after the week you've had." At first glance, these comments may seem harmless or even supportive, but over time, they plant seeds of doubt that can grow into full-blown insecurity. Manipulators know that the more they can erode your self-worth, the easier it becomes to control you. So, how do you identify a manipulator before they have the chance to pull the strings? While their tactics are often subtle, there are a few key warning signs to watch out for. First, notice how they adapt their personality to different situations. Do they suddenly change their demeanor or values, depending on who they're around? This emotional chameleon behavior is often a red flag, as manipulators tailor their persona to fit what they think will get them the most out of a situation. Another sign is their uncanny ability to twist the truth and shift blame. Manipulators are never at fault, and they will go to great lengths to make sure you believe it. If you find yourself constantly apologizing or feeling like you're in the wrong, even when your instincts tell you otherwise, it's worth considering whether you're being manipulated. They are experts at turning the tables, making you feel responsible for their mistakes and emotions. Lastly, manipulators often isolate their targets. They might subtly encourage you to distance yourself from friends or family who might see through their charade. They may make you feel like no one else understands them the way you do, creating a false sense of intimacy that keeps you tied to them. This isolation is a key part of their strategy, as it leaves you more dependent on them for validation and support. Dealing with a manipulator is no easy task, but recognizing the signs is the first step to breaking free from their grip. The most important thing you can do is trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't allow yourself to be swayed by their charm or their sob stories. Manipulators are experts at tugging on your heartstrings, but their concern is always for themselves, not for you. Setting firm boundaries is crucial when dealing with a manipulator. Once you recognize their tactics, you must be prepared to stand your ground. Refuse to engage in their mind games or emotional manipulation, and don't be afraid to distance yourself from them if necessary. Manipulators thrive on control, but once you take that power back, their influence begins to wane. In the words of the renowned poet Maya Angelou, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." This wisdom is especially true when dealing with manipulators. Their patterns of behavior don't change overnight. And if you've identified someone who fits these traits, it's crucial to take action sooner rather than later. Protect yourself from becoming another pawn in their game. Manipulators may seem powerful, but their power only exists as long as they can control others. Once you see through their tactics and take back control of your own life, their influence fades. You are not responsible for fixing them, nor should you feel guilty for cutting ties when necessary. Remember, true relationships are built on trust, respect, and mutual support, none of which a manipulator can offer. By learning to recognize and protect yourself from manipulation, you empower yourself to build healthier, more authentic connections with people who truly value and respect you. You deserve relationships where your kindness is appreciated, not exploited. Number 5, the chronic critics. We all know someone who seems to have an almost magical ability to detect flaws in everything and everyone around them. These individuals are the chronic critics, the ones who never miss an opportunity to point out what's wrong, no matter how trivial or irrelevant it may be. Whether it's your choice of clothing, the way you arrange your furniture, or even how you phrase an email, the chronic critic will always find something to critique. It's as though they carry around a magnifying glass, meticulously scanning every situation for imperfection, and once they find it, they latch onto it with unyielding determination. Nothing is ever good enough, and their negativity becomes a constant cloud over your interactions with them. The chronic critic can be found in many areas of life, at work, in social circles, or even within families. You can recognize them by their conversations, which are typically laced with disapproving remarks, backhanded compliments, and unsolicited advice. Their critique isn't limited to significant issues. Even the most minor, inconsequential details are fair game for their scrutiny. You might be celebrating a big personal achievement, but they'll zero in on the smallest flaw and make it the centerpiece of their commentary. For example, you might have spent weeks planning a beautiful event, but rather than acknowledging your hard work, they'll comment on how the napkins didn't quite match the tablecloths. But why do chronic critics behave this way? Why do they seem so focused on finding fault in everything and everyone? The answer often lies deep within their own psyche. Research suggests that chronic critics frequently use criticism as a tool to exert power and control. By highlighting the flaws in others, they position themselves as superior, the ones with the discerning eye, the ones who see what others overlook. This habit of tearing others down allows them to maintain a sense of authority and dominance. It's as if their ability to find faults elevates their status, allowing them to feel more competent or important than those around them. However, chronic criticism is rarely about the actual flaws or imperfections they point out. Psychologists believe that this behavior is often rooted in the critic's own insecurities. People who are constantly critical of others may be projecting their internal struggles onto the world around them. Their harsh judgments of others are a reflection of their harsh self-judgment. Instead of confronting their own inadequacies or vulnerabilities, they externalize those feelings, directing them at others. By focusing on what's wrong with the outside world, they can momentarily distract themselves from the things they don't like about their own lives. For instance, someone who feels insecure about their own appearance might frequently critique the way others dress. Or someone who feels inadequate in their career may be quick to criticize a coworker's performance. In reality, the flaws they see in others are often the flaws they fear or resent in themselves. By drawing attention to others' mistakes, they can temporarily mask their own feelings of inadequacy. But while understanding the psychology behind chronic criticism can foster empathy, it doesn't make dealing with these individuals any easier. Their relentless negativity can have a profound impact on your self-esteem and mental well-being, especially if you are frequently on the receiving end of their critiques. Over time, their constant fault-finding can make you feel as though you can't do anything right, eroding your confidence and making you second-guess your every decision. You may begin to anticipate their criticism even before it happens, altering your behavior to avoid their disapproval. It's important to recognize that chronic critics thrive on this power dynamic. By making you feel insecure or inadequate, they maintain control. Their criticism isn't about helping you improve or offering constructive feedback. It's about reinforcing their own sense of superiority. That's why it's essential to learn how to protect yourself from their toxic behavior. One of the most effective strategies for dealing with chronic critics is to develop a thick skin when it comes to their remarks. Understand that their criticism often says more about them than it does about you. Instead of internalizing their comments, try to maintain a balanced perspective. Ask yourself if their critique is genuinely constructive or if it's simply a reflection of their negativity. More often than not, their criticism will be unwarranted, stemming from their own insecurities rather than any real issue on your part. When you learn to view their comments in this light, their words lose much of their sting. Another strategy is to set clear emotional boundaries with the chronic critic. When their critiques start to affect your mental well-being, it's okay to distance yourself. You don't have to engage in every conversation or accept every piece of unsolicited advice. Let them know when their criticism is unwelcome or unnecessary. For example, if they constantly critique your work, you might say, "I appreciate your input, but I'm happy with the way things turned out." By politely but firmly pushing back, you assert your own autonomy and show that their critiques won't undermine your confidence. It's also important to keep in mind that not all criticism is inherently bad. Constructive feedback, when delivered with good intentions, can help you grow and improve. The key difference lies in the delivery and the intent behind the words. Chronic critics rarely offer constructive criticism because their comments are not meant to help. They are meant to tear down. They don't provide solutions or alternatives, just complaints. If you're unsure whether a piece of criticism is constructive, ask yourself, does this feedback come with a suggestion for improvement? Is it delivered in a way that encourages growth? Or is it simply meant to highlight a flaw? If the answer is the latter, it's likely the chronic critic speaking. Chronic critics often disguise their negativity under the guise of being honest or realistic. This can be particularly damaging because it makes their criticism seem more justified. They'll claim they're just telling it like it is or offering a different perspective. But in reality, their remarks are often tinged with condescension and cynicism. These truth bombs are less about offering a balanced view and more about asserting dominance in the conversation. By recognizing this tactic, you can better shield yourself from their negativity. There's also the matter of how chronic critics affect group dynamics. In workplaces or social settings, chronic critics can create a toxic environment, stifling creativity and innovation. Their constant negativity can make others hesitant to speak up or try new things for fear of being ridiculed or criticized. If you're in a leadership role, it's important to address chronic criticism head-on to prevent it from poisoning the morale of the group. Encourage a culture of constructive feedback, where criticism is aimed at improving outcomes rather than tearing people down. But perhaps the most important thing to remember when dealing with chronic critics is that you are in control of how much power their words have over you. They may point out every perceived flaw, but that doesn't mean their perspective is the truth. You have the ability to decide whether their criticism holds any weight. If their remarks don't resonate with your values or goals, feel free to discard them. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. In the end, chronic critics will always be around, pointing out what's wrong and finding fault where others see none. But their negative lens doesn't have to color your world. By recognizing their behavior for what it is, an expression of their own insecurities, you can rise above their critiques and continue living your life on your own terms. Don't let their pessimism dim your shine or hinder your progress. You are not obligated to fix their issues, nor are you responsible for their unhappiness. You have the right to pursue your goals, enjoy your successes, and celebrate your efforts without their constant shadow of negativity. Number 6, the narcissists. Have you ever met someone who seems to see the world only through the lens of their own reflection, as if their entire existence revolves around their image, their desires, and their accomplishments? Welcome to the exhausting, perplexing, and often toxic world of narcissists, people who have turned self-love into an all-encompassing obsession, so much so that it eclipses everything and everyone around them. It's as though they possess a mirror where their soul should be, constantly admiring themselves while ignoring or exploiting the people in their lives. Interacting with a narcissist can feel like trying to fill the Grand Canyon with a single glass of water. No matter how much you give, it's never enough. Narcissists are often charming, charismatic, and seemingly confident, but beneath that shiny surface lies an insatiable need for admiration and validation. They crave attention, approval, and praise, and they will go to great lengths to secure it. In fact, they've perfected the art of turning every conversation, every interaction, into an opportunity to talk about themselves. You might start a conversation about your latest project, only to find yourself 10 minutes later listening to a detailed monologue about their latest triumph. No matter how trivial it may be, it's as if they possess an almost supernatural ability to redirect the spotlight back to themselves, regardless of the context. According to a study by Indiana University, approximately 6% of the population exhibits significant narcissistic traits. That means it's highly likely you've encountered a narcissist in your life, perhaps in your workplace, within your circle of friends, or even in your own family. They can be hard to spot at first because their initial charm and confidence can be incredibly appealing. They often appear larger than life, full of stories about their success, their intelligence, and their seemingly endless list of accomplishments. But it doesn't take long before their true nature reveals itself, and you begin to realize that their charm is nothing more than a facade, a mask that hides a deep-seated need for admiration at the expense of everyone else. The defining characteristic of a narcissist is their inflated sense of self-importance. They believe that they are superior to others, that their needs, desires, and opinions are more important than anyone else's. They often expect special treatment and are quick to become resentful or angry when they don't receive the attention they believe they deserve. Narcissists see the world as an extension of themselves, and they view other people not as individuals with their own thoughts and feelings, but as tools to be used in their quest for admiration and validation. Narcissists have an impressive ability to manipulate situations to ensure that they remain at the center of attention. In conversations, they dominate the dialogue, steering it back to their achievements, their struggles, or their desires. Even when they appear to be listening, they're often just waiting for the opportunity to shift the focus back to themselves. And if you dare to criticize them or fail to give them the admiration they crave, they can become defensive, dismissive, or even hostile. Their fragile egos cannot tolerate anything less than constant praise, and any perceived slight is met with intense backlash. But why do narcissists behave this way? Psychology offers some compelling insights. At the core of narcissistic behavior is often a deep sense of insecurity. Despite their outward confidence, narcissists are often driven by a need to compensate for feelings of inadequacy or worthlessness. Their grandiosity is a defense mechanism designed to shield them from the vulnerability they fear. By projecting an image of superiority, they protect themselves from the painful truth that, deep down, they may not feel as valuable or capable as they want others to believe. This is why narcissists are so desperate for validation. They rely on external praise to prop up their fragile self-esteem. The more attention and admiration they receive, the more they can maintain the illusion of their own superiority. But like a bucket with a hole in it, no amount of praise is ever enough. The validation they crave is fleeting, and once the praise subsides, they are left needing more, which is why they continuously seek new sources of admiration. Engaging with a narcissist can be emotionally draining. They often take without giving, monopolizing your time and energy while offering little to no support in return. They expect you to be their audience, their admirer, their cheerleader, but they rarely, if ever, reciprocate. Your needs, thoughts, and emotions become secondary to their insatiable hunger for attention. Over time, this dynamic can leave you feeling used, undervalued, and invisible. So how do you deal with a narcissist? One of the most important strategies is to manage your expectations. Understand that narcissists are unlikely to change their behavior. No matter how much you try to please or satisfy them, they will always need more admiration, more attention, more validation. Accepting this reality can help you avoid the frustration that comes from trying to fill an unfillable void. Another key strategy is to set boundaries. Narcissists are experts at overstepping boundaries, expecting others to cater to their needs without considering the impact on those around them. By setting firm boundaries, you can protect your own mental and emotional health. This might mean limiting the amount of time you spend with them, refusing to engage in their endless self-promotion, or simply standing up for yourself when they try to dominate a conversation. It's also important to avoid feeding into their ego. Narcissists thrive on admiration, so the more you praise or validate them, the more they will continue to seek it from you. Instead, focus on keeping interactions neutral and balanced. Don't let them monopolize conversations, and don't feel obligated to stroke their ego. Remember, your role is not to be their constant source of validation. When it comes to close relationships with narcissists, whether it's a family member, a partner, or a friend, it can be even more challenging. In these cases, professional guidance, such as therapy, may be necessary to help navigate the complexities of the relationship. Narcissists often struggle with empathy, so they may not understand or acknowledge the impact their behavior has on others. This can make it difficult to address the issues head-on without causing conflict. Having a therapist to help mediate these conversations and offer strategies can be incredibly valuable. While narcissists may seem larger than life, it's important to remember that their behavior is driven by deep-seated insecurities. Their need for constant admiration and attention is a reflection of their own inner void, a void that no amount of external validation can ever fill. By recognizing this, you can approach interactions with narcissists with greater clarity and detachment, knowing that their behavior is not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their own internal struggles. As you navigate relationships with narcissists, remember that you have the right to prioritize your own needs and well-being. You are not responsible for constantly feeding their ego, nor should you feel guilty for setting boundaries or distancing yourself when necessary. Protecting your own emotional health is essential, especially when dealing with individuals who are more interested in being admired than in forming genuine, reciprocal connections. In the words of the ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When it comes to narcissists, the key to preserving your own sense of self lies in how you respond to their relentless demands for attention. By maintaining boundaries, managing expectations, and refusing to let their behavior diminish your self-worth, you can protect yourself from the draining effects of narcissism while still engaging in a way that feels healthy and balanced for you. Number 7. The opportunists. Imagine meeting someone who always seems to be hovering nearby, waiting for just the right moment to take advantage of your kindness, generosity, or resources without ever giving anything meaningful in return. This is the opportunist, an individual who has perfected the art of exploiting situations and people for their own benefit, often at the expense of others. Opportunists are like silent hunters, always scanning for an opening, a chance to gain something, whether it's your time, your energy, your money, or your influence, and they do so without any regard for the consequences to you. On the surface, an opportunist can appear charming, friendly, and even generous, but behind that mask lies a calculated strategy to get what they want with minimal effort. They'll often present themselves as in need or helpless, knowing that your sense of empathy or duty will prompt you to offer assistance. But once you do, they take what they need and move on, offering little to no reciprocity in return. In fact, their generosity tends to be one-sided. They're generous in taking but stingy in giving back. It's easy to confuse an opportunist with someone who genuinely needs help. After all, most of us encounter people who are in difficult circumstances and need support from time to time. The key difference, however, lies in behavior patterns and the concept of reciprocity. While someone in need will often be appreciative and may offer help in return when they're able, an opportunist sees every act of generosity as an opportunity to take without giving anything back. Their relationships are transactional, and their primary goal is self-serving. The moment they've gotten what they need, they vanish, only to reappear when they need something again. Psychologist Harriet Black once explained that opportunists are particularly skilled at making others feel guilty when they don't meet their expectations. They've mastered the subtle art of manipulation, often playing the victim when things don't go their way. If you refuse to help or set boundaries, they may guilt-trip you with phrases like, "I thought you were the kind of person who cared about others," or "I didn't think you'd turn your back on me when I needed you the most." These tactics are designed to wear you down, pushing you to cave into their demands even when it goes against your better judgment. Opportunists also tend to exploit social situations, gravitating toward people who are generous, empathetic, or willing to help. They know exactly who to target and how to charm their way into people's good graces. At first, they may seem like the perfect friend or colleague, always around and ready to engage. But over time, it becomes clear that their interest in you is tied directly to what they can gain. As soon as they've exhausted your resources or have found someone else to exploit, their interest fades, and you're left feeling used and undervalued. Dealing with opportunists can be incredibly frustrating because they often operate under the radar. Their manipulative behavior can be hard to detect until you're already deep into the relationship. By the time you realize what's happening, you may have already given more than you intended, whether it's your time, emotional support, or even financial resources. This is why it's critical to establish clear boundaries early on when dealing with people who exhibit opportunistic tendencies. Setting boundaries with an opportunist can be challenging because they are skilled at pushing those limits. They may test the waters by asking for small favors at first, borrowing money, needing a place to stay for a few days, or relying on you for emotional support. At first, these requests may seem innocent, but over time, the demands grow larger and more frequent. You may start to notice that the relationship feels increasingly one-sided, with you constantly giving and them constantly taking. This is a key red flag. To effectively deal with an opportunist, it's important to clearly define what you're willing to offer and what you expect in return. If someone is asking for your help or resources, make sure that there is an element of reciprocity in the relationship. This doesn't mean that everything has to be an exact quid pro quo, but there should be a sense of balance. If you find yourself consistently giving without receiving anything in return, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. Another strategy is to foster a sense of mutual responsibility. Opportunists often avoid taking on responsibilities because they prefer to let others do the heavy lifting. They'll make excuses, claim they're too busy, or suggest that they're not capable of contributing. To counteract this, clearly define roles and expectations from the outset. If you're helping someone, ensure that they are also contributing in some way, whether it's through effort, time, or resources. This helps establish a dynamic of equality and discourages opportunists from taking advantage of your goodwill. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 4 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's also essential to recognize when guilt is being used as a manipulation tool. Opportunists are experts at playing on emotions to get what they want. They may make you feel as though you're letting them down if you don't meet their demands, or they may frame their needs in such a way that saying no makes you feel like a bad person. But here's the truth. You are not obligated to meet everyone's needs, especially when doing so drains you of your own energy or resources. It's perfectly okay to say no when someone's request crosses your personal boundaries, and doing so is an important part of maintaining healthy relationships. The opportunist will often return again and again if you continue to meet their demands. They operate in cycles, coming back whenever they need something, then fading away when they've gotten what they wanted. To break this cycle, you must be firm in your boundaries and resist the temptation to be drawn into their web of manipulation. If they guilt-trip you or become defensive, it's a sign that they are more interested in what they can take from you than in building a reciprocal, healthy relationship. It's important to also recognize that not everyone who asks for help is an opportunist. Genuine friendships and relationships involve giving and receiving support when needed. The difference is that in healthy relationships, the support goes both ways. There's a balance of give and take, and both parties feel valued and respected. Opportunists, on the other hand, thrive in environments where they are able to take advantage of others' generosity without feeling the need to give anything back. Finally, don't be afraid to walk away from an opportunist. If you find that your relationship with someone is consistently draining and unfulfilling, it may be time to distance yourself. Opportunists rarely change their behavior, especially if they've grown accustomed to having their needs met without having to contribute. You deserve relationships that are based on mutual respect, trust, and reciprocity, not on manipulation and exploitation. In the words of the philosopher Epictetus, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. When faced with an opportunist, you have the power to set boundaries, demand reciprocity, and protect your own well-being. By doing so, you not only prevent yourself from being exploited, but also send a clear message that you value your own worth and will not be taken advantage of. In the end, the opportunist's power lies in their ability to manipulate and take. By setting clear limits, you reclaim your own power and free yourself from their grasp. Number 8, the envious. Imagine the moment you've just achieved something life-changing. Perhaps you've landed a dream job, met the love of your life, or even won the lottery. Naturally, you'd want to share this exhilarating news with those close to you, expecting excitement and joy from them. But as the saying goes, not everyone who smiles is happy for you. In fact, according to a Harvard University study, a staggering 70% of lottery winners experience a deterioration in their personal relationships after their windfall. The root cause? Envy. But here's the thing. You don't need to win millions or experience a monumental event to encounter envy. It's present in everyday life, lurking in the shadows of any personal success, big or small. Whether you've just gotten a promotion, started a new relationship, or made an exciting personal breakthrough, envy has a way of creeping into relationships. It's that unsettling feeling you get when someone's congratulatory words don't quite match the look in their eyes, or when subtle resentment slips into casual conversation. The envious are always nearby, ready to downplay your accomplishments, inject negativity, or cast doubt, all while hiding behind a mask of politeness or feigned support. Envy is one of the most corrosive emotions, both for those who feel it and those who are on the receiving end of it. It's more than just jealousy, which is a desire for what someone else has. Envy goes deeper. It's the painful awareness of another's success coupled with resentment, a bitterness that someone else is enjoying something we feel should belong to us. This emotion can eat away at friendships, work relationships, and even family bonds. But why do some people seem more prone to envy than others? According to psychologist Laura Parker, author of The Philosophy of Envy, it's all about perception. Envy often arises when people perceive a gap between what they have and what they believe they deserve. It's as though they carry an internal scale of justice, and when life tips that scale in someone else's favor, whether it's wealth, love, success, or happiness, their sense of fairness is shattered. This perceived injustice leads to feelings of inadequacy, frustration, and ultimately, envy. For the envious, someone else's success becomes a painful reminder of what they don't have, and instead of feeling happy for others, they feel resentment. The envious person might not always be openly hostile. Sometimes envy is expressed subtly through passive-aggressive comments, minimizing others' achievements, or simply withdrawing emotional support. These people may act like they're happy for you, but beneath the surface, their resentment festers, creating an invisible barrier in the relationship. You might notice them downplaying your successes with comments like, "Well, anyone could have gotten that job if they'd had your connections." Or, "I guess things just always work out for you, don't they?" These remarks are meant to diminish your achievements, making them seem less significant while masking the speaker's own insecurities. But envy isn't inherently bad. It's a natural human emotion that everyone experiences at some point. In fact, envy can even serve as a motivator, pushing people to improve themselves, work harder, or strive for more. The key difference lies in how we handle it. When channeled productively, envy can inspire self-growth. But when left unchecked, envy becomes toxic, leading to bitterness, resentment, and damaged relationships. One of the most common pieces of advice for handling envy is to keep your successes private. In an era of social media, where oversharing is the norm and every life achievement is broadcast to hundreds, if not thousands, of acquaintances, this might seem counterintuitive. But studies show that keeping your goals and accomplishments to yourself can be one of the most powerful ways to safeguard your success and your peace of mind. Research published in Psychological Science found that people who kept their goals private were significantly more likely to achieve them than those who shared them widely. The reason is simple. When we share our plans prematurely, we trigger the release of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, giving us a false sense of accomplishment. This premature dopamine rush can make us feel like we've already achieved the goal, reducing our actual motivation to follow through and complete it. The same applies to sharing successes. When we constantly seek validation from others, we become dependent on external approval, and when that approval isn't as enthusiastic as we hoped, or worse, when it's tinged with envy, it can sap our joy and make us second-guess ourselves. Moreover, By keeping your successes more private, you protect yourself from the destructive power of envy. Not everyone in your circle will be genuinely happy for you, and some might harbor feelings of resentment that you'll never fully understand. Instead of opening yourself up to the risk of envy, share your achievements selectively with people who you know will genuinely celebrate with you, rather than feel threatened or diminished by your success. Dealing with envious people is tricky because their resentment is often rooted in their own insecurities, not anything you've done wrong. However, understanding the nature of envy can help you navigate these relationships with more compassion and wisdom. Recognize that their envy is less about you and more about their unfulfilled desires or personal frustrations. This understanding can help you avoid internalizing their negativity or letting it taint your success. It's also important to set boundaries with envious individuals. If someone consistently tries to undermine your achievements or makes you feel guilty for your success, it might be time to distance yourself from that relationship. While it's natural to want to maintain friendships or connections, staying around people who can't genuinely celebrate your victories can be draining and damaging to your self-esteem. Instead, focus on building relationships with people who lift you up, support your goals, and are secure enough in themselves to be happy for your happiness. On the flip side, we must also be aware of our own envy. We've all experienced moments of feeling envious of someone else's good fortune, whether it's their career success, their relationship, or even their lifestyle. The key is not to let envy control us. Instead of letting it fester, use it as a signal to reflect on your own desires. Ask yourself, what is it about their success that triggers envy in me? What can I learn from their journey? And how can I work toward my own version of success? When we embrace envy as a motivator, rather than a source of bitterness, we can transform it into a force for personal growth. Instead of resenting others, we can focus on our own paths and what we need to do to achieve the life we want. By shifting our focus away from comparison and toward self-improvement, we free ourselves from the toxic cycle of envy. As philosopher Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." It's easy to get caught up in envy, but true fulfillment comes from focusing on your own journey, not someone else's. Celebrate your successes quietly. Protect your joy from those who might tarnish it. And remember that envy says more about others than it does about you. In the end, the envious will always exist, but how you respond to them and how you manage your own feelings of envy is what defines your growth and happiness. Keep your goals close. Share your wins with those who truly support you, and let the rest fall away. Your success is yours to treasure, and no amount of envy can take that from you. As we come to the end of this eye-opening journey, I want to take a moment to reflect on everything we've covered. What have you learned about the people you should never help? And how has this changed your perspective on kindness and boundaries? I'd love to hear from you. Comment below with one lesson that stood out to you and how you plan to apply it in your life. If you found this video insightful, please leave your comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more powerful content like this. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful lessons with the world.